For many people out there, it is a month that symbolizes change. In the northern hemisphere, it is the beginning of spring, where all the flowers come alive and everything's cute and pretty and you're well on your way to summer. And for those of us down in the southern hemisphere, it is the beginning of autumn and the sweet, beautiful reprieve that is getting the f*** away from Australian summers. And so that is why, with nothing but autumn and autumn leaves on the mind, I decided to do a beach theme. Yeah, hi guys, my name is Alex, aka the Notebook Dragon, and welcome to my March 2025 BuJo setup. Okay, so to get a little bit more into the meat and potatoes of why I decided to go with this kind of blue and yellow and green theme for March, there are many reasons, but the main reason was quite simply the fact that I actually came out of a major surgery a week and a half ago, and going balls to the wall with a very creative, crazy, intense spread might have caused me to pop a stitch. So I wanted to go with something a little bit more simpler, something that I could do while I was high on the supply, if you know what I mean. And so I turned to what I already had in my catalogue of art supplies to play with. And one thing that I was very, very happy to get my hands on earlier in the year was I finally managed to actually get my mitts on that beautiful blue A5 paper pad from Archer and Olive. They seem to have had a restock in the beginning of January. I have no idea why. I can only assume that somebody who bought a load of stuff just decided last minute, actually nah, or maybe they had it secretly in a box in the back of the garage and didn't realize they had it. Either way, boo for them and yahoo for me, because the second it was back on the site, my sookie ass bought it immediately. And so I've been holding on to it, waiting, because I wanted to do a theme in my BuJo that was based on the color palette of that particular pad, and that pad had yellow, light blue, royal blue, and a navy blue. And so, taking that, I put it in my little swatch palette book where I do my weird mood boards, cracked out my washi tape swatch book, and I ended up picking some nice green wave-like washi tapes and a plain green washi tape to kind of balance it out, since green is a colour that just goes really goes really well with your yellows and your blues. And finally, because what is a theme without having some kind of tying element to bring it all together? I had these really cute stickers that I got off of the Temu, which is just cats in cups, and they were mostly like blues and browns and yellows and greens, and they're really cute, and I really wanted to use them. So the stars align, and that is how we came to this March theme. So for my front cover, I wanted to kind of go for a spread that really, I guess, highlighted the color palette that I'd be working with without going really over the top. Like I did a few different concepts to try and figure out what I wanted to do, but I ended up coming up with this cool, like, nice, like, I guess, swirl pattern going around. And the idea, of course, is kind of, it's like a massive swirl that's slowly getting smaller and smaller. And so I've got the yellow on the outside, and then I got a blue in the middle, and a very dark blue on the edges. The aim is essentially to have it kind of draw your eye so that you kind of follow the details around the page in a similar pattern as you would follow the spiral. Then of course I just stuck some washi tape down in the blank space so it wasn't completely naked, and I put two of the cat stickers down the bottom so that you could see that they're there to kind of highlight the theme and just give those cute, good vibes. And smack bang in the middle of the right page we have March, because that is in fact what month it is. Woohoo! But yeah, and in order to create the effects, apart from just some ripped up washi tape and stickers, it was mostly just me taking the paper off the pad and ripping it in the, I guess, like in the shapes that I actually wanted it to be ripped into, and pasting it down on the paper with my beautiful dot glue tape thingamajiggy that is my actual lifesaver, and I genuinely would cry and die without it. On to the next page. Now, trying to stick with that theme of keeping things relatively simple, I ended up first up taking two of the blue shades and kind of ripping and pasting them down on top of each other in the corners, just for that splash of colour. And then for the actual calendar squares itself, instead of going in and like, lining it out and like actively cutting out the paper so that it actually fit the square shapes, instead I just took the yellow paper, cut it up into 6x6 squares, use one of those like edge clipper things to like round the edges out, and then I just pasted them in like a relatively even spacing. I say relatively because like I didn't measure it, I eyeballed it, so it was just kind of even enough so that my brain was happy. And then once I had pasted them all in, I then went in with my dark blue Tombow and I just outlined them using the edge of the actual tile as a guide before going in and just putting the numbers on each one there. And then finally, just to tie it off and keep it nice and simple, I did the word calendar, because, just in case I forgot what the calendar was, on that same navy blue with my white Posca. Got the two blows on the outside to help it really blend with the page, stuck some washi tape in the other corner just for some balance, and I stuck a cute ball of a cat in a glass under the 24 and 31 tiles, because, still wanted it kind of to fill that space a little bit, but like not too much it was over the top. Now flipping over is when we start to get into the meat and potatoes of the monthly spreads. Now with it being my third ever month into the wonderful realm of bullet journaling, I'm still finding my footing and really experimenting to see what works with me and what doesn't, and switching things around every month to really give everything a crack and a try. And so last month, I can say for certain that I actually really enjoyed having the monthly bingo in place. I didn't get every square crossed off, but I managed to get the vast majority of them. So ironically, I ended up still feeling quite accomplished by the end of it, and it felt really good to hit my first bingo, so to speak. And the way I'd laid it out is essentially I put a few hard goals in there, I put a few medium goals in there, I put a few, easy goals in there, and I put one or two ones which are kind of inevitable, so kind of just more date stamps in there to guarantee that I'll at least get something at the end of the month and not feel too sooky. So because I really did enjoy doing the bingo last month, I ended up deciding to dedicate an entire page to the bingo this month. That way it gave me a little bit more space at the bottom to really write out what I did on each day, and it also let me have the tiles be a little bit bigger, so that I could actually fit all of the text inside them. But ironically speaking, because I filled in all of the sections off camera, when I actually did go in to fill in the squares, I actually ended up finding the squares to feel almost a little bit too big, because I have really tiny handwriting, and so there was even one or two squares that I ended up drawing little doodles in them, so to help make up for the space. And of course in the center, because like in any good bingo game you have a free space in the center, I just put like a nice little heart doodle with sparkles, because it just seemed to fit the general vibe that was going on with the rest of the theme. And to give some examples of things that I did put in here is flea and worm the cats, because it has to be done, vacuuming the house, just having a good day, making a new friend, put some YouTube goals in there, get the March sub box from A&O because I'm an absolute sucker for the shiny notebooks, have a tasty red bean treat, my cat sits on my lap. It's a whole bunch of different things that just range all across the bar, and it just feels good to fill in one of these spares, and I do hope I hit another bingo, because there's just a part of my brain that just goes bingo when I hit it. So I might continue it, I might not, but at least for March, bingo is staying part of my general day-to-day fun vernacular. Hee. And of course on the right side of the spread we've got three other essentials which have been in every spread since I started, and they're probably going to stay in every spread keep going forward, which is my list of goals, which is just very handy for when I'm like, alright, I want to try and get this shit done this month ideally. My to-do lists, though I have noticed that I did not make them big enough, because after filling them in I have successfully filled them both into the brim, which means if I come up with anything else for either of these lists, I'm kind of up the creek. So note to future me, bigger to-do lists, it's good to shrink them, but not that much. And finally I've got my mood tracker at the bottom, because it is just kind of fun to go in no matter how good or shitty my mood is. It's fun when you're in a great mood, and it's cathartic when you're in a shit mood. With the mood tracker to just go in and just put the vibe emoji of the day. Because I basically just, with my mood trackers, it's a different emoji, that's how I do it. And I'm enjoying doing it that way. Now, flipping on over, this is where we start to get into, I guess, a little bit more of the experimental phase. One new thing I'm trying this month, and I can already say that I'm struggling with it a little bit because I am fighting the internal cringe like crazy, is I've put in a section which I have called affirmations. I've seen a lot of other people do it in the BuJoing space, and I just kind of wanted to give it a try because it's a whole, you know, like try it before you knock it kind of deal. And that is basically, I've put in a section where every single day of the month I need to compliment myself so I can have, you know, positive self-thinking. Like, I'm probably going to phrase it really wrong, but it's not quite like a gratitude thing. Maybe affirmations is the right word, I'm not 100% sure. But like the idea is every day I have to go in, I have to say a nice thing about myself, because like any other Australian on the planet, I spend way too much time kicking myself in the virtual dick instead of actually being nice to myself. So I'll see how I go. I don't know if I'm going to carry this one forward. Like I've just said, like, I'm recording this on the 2nd of March, and I can already say with complete confidence, there is like a huge internal well of just cringe coming out within me every time I fill in this section, which probably, like, which says more about me than anything else. Like, there's just part of me that just does not want to fill it in. I don't want to say nice things about myself. It feels cringy. But I feel like I've got to do this. I've got to give it a crack. If it works for my, like, if my brain is feeling better at the end of the month, then this is a cringe I have to deal with, goddammit. And if it doesn't, hey, I tried it, and that is all that matters. And if this is something that works for you, please, dear God, keep doing it. It's useful. And if you are someone who knocks yourself to absolute tears, like every single person in Australia, if you are someone who you insult yourself more than you compliment yourself, make yourself do this for a month. Because think of it this way, right? Let's use a little reverse psychology. If it works, you've successfully made yourself feel better about yourself. And if it doesn't work, you're punishing yourself for being a shit. And you deserve to be punished for being a shit. Now, don't you? So time to write your daily affirmations, you terrible human being. Compliment yourself, because you know that you hate doing it. Suffer. And of course, the other things on this page, I have my best bit section. I've ended up re-including my T section, so worst bits. I ended up finding there were a few moments last month that were a bit but I didn't have anywhere to put it, so I ended up throwing those bits in the notes section, which just felt weird. So I ended up bringing back the T section, because I found I actually did use it, because the bad stuff does deserve to be acknowledged as much as the good stuff, and it's kind of cathartic just getting it out and being like, yeah, the 12th of April was garbage. Something like that. So I brought back my T section, and I've got a little note section at the bottom to kind of mix in, and I can confirm that the first note I've written here is, Lord, I'm feeling that affirmation cringe. Clearly, I want future me to know just how much pain I'm putting myself through to be nice to myself. This is true agony. And of course, on the right side of the page, I really enjoyed my media tracker last month. I really used it. Like, flipping back in, for reference, I almost completely filled it in. I think there was only like 3 sections at the bottom I didn't get to, because I'm only putting in media that I actively consume that month. And yeah, like, there was definitely some stuff, like one of the shows I watched, I'm not gonna say it out loud, because what the hell, my only comment was just, what the fuck? There are some interesting shows on the internet, and I have a terrible habit of sticking a fork in a plug socket and wondering what happens. But yeah, like, I found that I actually really enjoy doing that thing, because it's like a soft media tracker, and I think if I do this for a few more months, like, I can feel the desire within me, I suppose, to expand. And I think if I keep doing this, it's kind of like slowly training my brain to be more receptive to the idea of doing something like a reading or a media journal, because I do want to get into that, but I also know that I'm a lazy prick and I need to be led with crumbs to go anywhere. So this is me leading myself with crumbs so that I get motivated enough to start a reading journal / media journal, because I know I will enjoy it, but I know if I jump in too soon, I'm gonna set it up and never touch it. So this is the crumbs. And so far this is working really good. And it's just rating and title. And yeah, I've already got like a couple of things put in here. Only one show I've actually finished this month because it's the second, and I finished it like because I was already watching it late last month, and it got 2 stars because trapped in a dating sim, the world of otome games is tough for mods, is hot garbage, and the only reason it's got 2 stars is because the main character has a personality, and the first 5 episodes are entertaining garbage, and the other 6 to 7 episodes made me want to die, but I got to share it with the denizens, my lovely VTubing community, and they all wanted to die watching it too, and that brought it up to 2 stars, because it was really funny watching other people suffer a show that I had to suffer on my own. Ah, friendship. Suffering together. So I'm looking forward to filling this one out. And at the bottom, I've got a little friend recommendation section. There's not too many slots because it's not often I get recommended something, but that way if someone does recommend me a show, I can stick it on my recommendation list instead of just nodding my head and going, oh yeah, I'll definitely checking out, and then forgetting they suggested it in the first place. So maybe this will get me off of my butt and I will get to enjoy great media sooner, because The Greatest Estate Developer, which is one of my favourite manga of all time, I kid you not, I'd been told so many times to read it, and it took me like 2-3 months to read it because I kept forgetting about it. So maybe this will get my useless nugget of a brain. I'm sorry, affirmation list, we're past you. I'm mean to myself again now. I'll get my useless nugget of a brain back in gear, and I'll actually, using this list, remember to watch things, or at least keep in mind things that other people suggest. If you've got a really good, like, garbage isekai... If you've got some good media you want to recommend in the comments, feel free to go ahead. Like, I like trash, so, like, feed me some hot garbage. Now, remaining in the realm of experimentation, flipping over, I have decided to give habit trackers a reskin. I am giving them a new go, so to speak. For the last couple of months, I've done what I suppose you could call detailed habit trackers. I've had a couple of habit trackers, but like each have had like a key next to them with like 5 or 6 different categories that the symbols could mean, and kind of very detailly tracking each section. This month, I want to try something completely different, and by that I mean I'm not doing a detailed tracker this month. Like there's still a little bit of detail to it. It's not like one category per tracker. I might actually die if I have no nuance, but instead of having like 5 clear things, instead I've got 3 clear things for each of these 9 trackers, but one of the 3 things on every single tracker means no action, which means that every single day will have a color in it. And essentially, if there's a yellow dot, I did nothing. I did nothing. I did nothing to do with it, and that way there's like some color going through instead of a bunch of blank bits. And the sections that I've chosen to track this month are whether or not I actively interact with my Notebook Dragon YouTube channel, whether or not I interact with my VTubing community or stream, my Japanese studies, because I've actually been keeping that up and doing quite well with it. Just going to be completely upfront, I didn't do shit with my singing practice. I think I lasted 5 days and then the tracker was naked. Clearly I do not care as much about that as I thought I did. I didn't even bother with the breathing exercises. So sorry singing, but I am never going to be an idol. I have accepted my fate as a lazy prick. It is back on the back burner and is out of the habit trackers, and maybe in 6 months time I'll delude myself that I want to be a singer again, and I will add it back in. So singing got the boot on account of me not doing it. But Japanese, I actually was doing that every day, so I seem to at least be focusing on that, so that gets to stick around. And like, I should do a video on it in the future to really like go into detail of like how I'm studying it. But like, to TLDR it, I'm using this Let's Learn Japanese Kanji flashcard app on my phone, and a game called Wagotabi, which basically is like Pokemon, except it teaches you Japanese in a way that it'll teach you something, and then it'll use the beat with a stick method after that point. So it's just like, oh, Ohayo gozaimasu means good morning, and then the characters will never say good morning to you again. It's Ohayo gozaimasu, and you better have fucking memorized it, otherwise you'll have no idea what anyone is talking to you about. And hey, turns out the beat with the stick method is actually really effective on my dumb brain. So that game has actually been incredibly helpful, and I find myself actually kind of learning the language. So I really would recommend it if you like games and brutal learning methods. The Let's Learn Japanese, like hiragana, katakana, and kanji, like Combat to Survive video games on PC are also pretty good as well. They're very good at teaching you like the alphabets and the kanji. Alright, minus soliloquy aside, ongoing. I've got my dinners tracker, because I still at least want to track whether I'm a dumb fuck and I Uber Eats or I don't. Cat tracker, so this is just kind of to track whether I, whether I top up food, water, because I've got automatic feeders and one of those little fountain nugget bowl things, so I don't have to top them up every day because, you know, I'm kind of an invalid at the moment. Dishes, did I do the dishes? Did I put away the dishes? Did I leave the dishes in the sink and do nothing? Content creation, so whether I planned or edited something or whether I filmed something. Spending, did I spend money or did I save money / earn money, or did I do nothing? And in this particular tracker, everything but the blue dot is good. The blue dot calls my ass out for spending money. And the last one is unique to this month, which is my dressing upkeep. I've still got the post-surgery dressings on, and basically every couple of days I need to change the dressing. And as for the actual pattern on this page as well, I kind of started pivoting because I wanted to make, I guess, like the ripped patterns I was using on each page interesting. So even though on the first couple of pages I was quite committed to the make it as easy as possible method, by the time I got to the habit trackers, I was like, nah, Binge, this looks boring. I want a cool, like, ore vein looking thing going up. But I'm not just gonna, like, do all the paste method. This book will get too fat. Let's get the ruler out and cut him out. So I ended up going down that method anyway, but I'm still happy with how the calendar looks looking back on it. So I've got this cool, like, ore vein with the light blue and the yellow going up through the center. And of course the habit tracker title in navy. Swapping over to the right side now, I've got my March in review section. I ended up leaving this out of the February spread because I couldn't think of anything to put in it since I'd taken everything out of the review section and put it elsewhere last month. So I added a few extra things in here now, and this is intended for me to... Some sections are fill as you go, but some sections are genuinely intended for me to not really touch too much till the end of the month. So like last month I had like a section that was like, oh, swap to weekly logs maybe? Include a reflection section, question mark. Like, I usually leave little notes for myself at the end of the month to remind future me to be like, okay, this didn't work, this worked. So when I'm planning the next spread, I've got an idea of what to cut and what to potentially include. Memories is just a section that's just dedicated to like cool memories I have within the month. It's not like the only section I've got dedicated to memories. Like I've got the best bits and worst bits section in the last page. It's just cool stuff I want to remember. So like the only thing I've written in there so far is watched Otome game mob anime with the denizens. It was true agony. Very fun though. And then of course I've got content creation, so anytime I do a content creation, I'm just going to put it down there so I can just keep track of what I put out that month. Income, when I get the mun-muns, and expenses and bills, when the mun-muns is taken away for good reasons and not naughty reasons, like I bought too many shiny notebooks or something. And finally, flipping over, we come up to what is arguably the biggest change that I'm doing in my BuJo in comparison to the months before this. I'm doing proper weekly logs instead of what I was doing before, which was kind of more like just continuous ongoing columns. The reason for that is like, when I first started doing this BuJo, for at least like the first week or so, I was kind of putting most of everything in it because I didn't really go back to work until the 6th. So the sections that like each day was clearly a different size, it was hard to predict. I had no idea what my habits would be in this journal, so I kind of just went along with it, and having that continuous column that I just separated via headers just was very good for saving space and guaranteeing I wasn't going to run out of space either. But I did notice as I settled into my routine, and I did officially split my BuJos between my personal and work BuJo, so I've got two separate ones entirely. And the work one is like, there is no pizzazz. I just like draw the title in a highlighter, rule a line in the middle and call it a day because it's a glorified to-do list. I noticed that in my personal BuJo, my daily list had shrunk a lot smaller and become a lot more consistent in size, because like even though I do have some quote-unquote work that I do at home, so this would be more like art commission work, you know, content creation, stuff like that, taking out all of my like day job stuff and just keeping this one specifically for like personal life, it ended up becoming a lot more manageable, and because of that I noticed I didn't need as much space, which meant that I could predict kind of how much space max I would need a day, because it'd be very unlikely that I'd go beyond it. And that's why last month when I was going through, I actually did not make it to the last page. Like, there was too much space in my February thing. Like, my first double spread managed to last me up until the 19th, and the second spread flopping over is up until the 28th is all done over on the left hand side, because several days were missed because I was too busy doing the new spread. And when I'm working on a new spread, I don't really use the BuJo. It's like the one downside of being an artsy fartsy type. The BuJo stops being used when a new spread's being made because I hate flipping back and forth between it. And so I ended up just doing a doodle on the right hand side just to fill in the space, because it would have driven me nuts otherwise. So that's why I ended up deciding going into March, I wanted to try and do proper weekly logs. And then that's of course when I came up the second dilemma, which was I'd never done like proper weekly logs before. I've always just done my running columns. I said always, it was 2 months. But like, I've always just done my running columns. So I don't know what style of weekly logs appeals to me. And so that's why I decided, since this is a chaotic theme of kind of ripped pages and kind of pizzazzy design, why not just kind of use this as an experiment? And so that's why all of my weekly log pages have different layouts. So my first weekly log page, I've actually got 9 sections in, because even though March has 31 days, there is like 2 days, like a Saturday, Sunday on that first week, and then 1 day on the last week, and there's no point giving them their own pages, even though it technically falls over a 6-week period just because of those trims. So on the first and last ones, I've just added the extra sections for the extra days. So on week 1, quote unquote, I've got from the 1st to the 9th, because I like my weeks ending on a Sunday. I've also got an events list and a goals list. Now, even though I'd planned for a goals list for all of the pages, I ended up finding that I just turned them into decal sections, so the goals list really is unique to the first section. Whether or not I'll regret that is a future me problem. I'm not on week 2 yet, but right now, week 1 has a goals list at the very least, and course events is just anything notable that requires me to be at a thing at a time. And that's what's on the events list. And I ended up just going with like some ripped around the sides, little like the ripped angled washi tape on the bottom left, and a cute slime cat on top of a bloob as the sticker decal on the events section. Flipping over to week 2, I've ended up going for a more elongated design. So by that I mean all of my panels are, I guess, more horizontally laid out. There's room for probably around like 12 sections on each of them, so it's not, I guess like the amount of space between this and the last page is actually pretty similar in terms of list items. It's just in 2 columns instead of 1. And then at the bottom of the right hand side of the page, I've got the events panel, which is a bit smaller than it was in the last one, and honestly keeping it small is probably a good idea, because I don't do that much shit in a week. And then on the right hand side of that little section, I've just got like a little cat in a cup with an ice cream in what would have been the goals panel, but I'm actually quite happy I just turned it into a decal panel, because it's cute and it balances everything out. I've got week 2 written on the navy with my Posca pen, and I've gone with that kind of aura-veiny, ripped kind of layered pattern going down the right side to really add a pop of colour and kind of help it balance out, I guess, with the rest of the design. Jumping over to week 3, I've ended up got like a horizontal bit of tape running across. We've got a couple of ripped lines coming down the center and little like ripped tear corners and stuff, just around to give like the little blips of color. I've got a cat and an ice cream as the decal on this one. The events panel is the exact same on the last page now, and then we've returned to a vertical layout with 7 days, kind of going across the dual page spread. And finally, flipping over to the last page, because we've got 8 panels, we've got 8 vertical panels on equal sizes on both sides. I ended up staggering it, so kind of like swapping which side of the page the weights on both sides to kind of help, I guess, like have that little bit of graphical happiness I don't know. Like that graphical balance going on with like the week 4 in one corner and the cat ice cream decal in the other. And then I've gone with like a massive, almost ripped or veiny kind of vibe going down the left page and kind of bleeding over onto the right to help keep that cohesive ripped pattern vibe while still keeping the ripped pattern, like the ripped paper looking, I guess, like just unique on each page. Like one big thing I had while doing this spread was I did not want the ripped paper to be the same on any of these 2 pages, which is why when you get to the weekly logs, the ripped paper look becomes a bit more and more unique, because I kind of, I was doing 2 things. Like, one, the first thing was I had kind of run out of ways to have it like in the corner, because I'd done it in the corner for all the main ones, so it was starting to get a bit boring there. But the other one is I also wanted to conserve paper. So when you're just ripping off the corners of a bunch of sheets, you tend to have a lot of spare ripped paper just laying around, and as you'll probably see in the speed paint, by the end of it, it looks like a bomb's hit it. So I was trying to use the, I guess, like pre-ripped paper I already had and kind of conserve what I already have to build these patterns on the page. And since they had the cutout areas, because they're meant to be behind the panels, it actually made it a lot easier, because I just, cut smaller bits and kind of make it look like it's all part of that same whole going on in the background. And, kept it cohesive. We got your, your week 4 and your white Posca on the navy to kind of show what week it is, cat in the corner, and the sections I got is events. I've only got 3 event lines. I hope I don't regret that. And on the other side, I've got April prep, and even though it's a bit redundant because I do have the BuJo note section as well, I think this is just going to be a to-do list of like things I need to do to prepare for April's spread, since it would be within this last week that I would be actively thinking about it and working on it. Don't really like to work on it too early in the month because it feels a bit more like jumping the gun. I like to go more towards the end of the month because I kind of know the vibe that I want to lean in towards. Plus, also, I'm going to be a lot more healed up than I am now, so I might be willing to jump back into the crazy artistic shit instead of the copy-pasta soliloquy that we did this month. Though I got to admit, even though I was just going for something that was a little simpler and a bit less crazy, I ended up going for something crazy anyway, so it turns out it really does not matter whether or not I'm injured. I'm clearly willing to go balls to the wall regardless. I guess that's just who I am. Extra, baby. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching my little March 2025 BuJo spread setup. At the end of this month, I think I'm going to go ahead and actually create a reflection for my first 3 months, like a video where I talk about, how I feel like actually BuJoing for 3 months, because it's going to be 3 months at this point, and whether or not it's like how it's helped me, how it hasn't helped me, and kind of really get into the meat and potatoes of like how, I guess, BuJoing works on a fresh brain. But like, that's another future for another day. And today I am ready to go take a nap. I hope you all have an amazing evening, morning, noon or night. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like. If you find myself even moderately entertaining, feel free to give me a scribble so I can haunt you forever. I will see you guys in my next video where I commit more shenanigans in the future. And until then, ciao for now. Bye bye!